Nolly stood quietly at the edge of the hall of choosing. Her hands were clasped in front of her, her small frame nearly hidden behind one of the tall stone pillars. Round her, the great chamber shimmered with silver light. The floor was smooth, like glass, and above her, floating lights moved in slow circles. Music played softly in the background, but she barely heard it. She watched as the ceremony continued. One by one, alien males walked to the center of the room and picked from the girls waiting along. The edge, cheers followed each choice, agreements were made, and proud families smiled. Everyone clapped when the tall girl with shining blue skin was chosen by a diplomat from the ice colonies. People laughed when the dancer from the flame world bowed to her new partner. Even the quiet one from the desert moon had been taken by a merchant captain. But no one looked at Nolly. This was her 3rd year at the choosing. Her people, the Solari, were known for calm nature and gentle hands. Many males from other species wanted Solari girls as mates or companions because they were peaceful, skilled, and rarely argued. But even among her people, Nolly was considered strange. She was smaller than the others. Her voice was soft, even for a Solari. She did not wear bright robes or sing the harmony songs. She did not dance or speak much. Her parents had sent her to the choosing with hope, but each year she returned. Alone. Now, only one choice remained. The last male to be called stood waiting near the center. He was not tall, not covered in fur or armor, no bright feathers, just simple clothes and a calm face, a human. The humans were new to the Galactic Union. Their home planet had only joined 2 cycles ago. Most other species still saw them as rough or unpredictable. Some respected them. Many ignored them. The human's name was Tom. He had been quiet all evening. He had watched the choices, but had not moved. Now, all eyes turned to him. The hall waited. Tom looked slowly across the line of unchosen girls. There were only 2 left. One stepped forward and smiled. She had glowing marks on her skin and long silver hair. Everyone thought he would choose her. But Tom looked past her. His eyes rested on Nolly. For a moment, she thought he was looking at someone behind her. She turned to check. No one. When she turned back, he was walking toward her. Nolly froze. Her fingers tightened. Tom stopped in front of her. He looked into her eyes, not over her head like the others. His voice was calm and clear. I choose her. The hall went quiet. A few people blinked. Someone coughed. The girl with silver hair looked away, trying to smile as if she didn't care. One of the record keepers stepped forward, frowning. Are you sure, human? He asked. She has not been chosen before. She is smaller than most. She has no titles. Her match value is low. Tom nodded. I'm sure, he said. Nolly's heart beat fast. She didn't understand. No one had ever picked her. She didn't think anyone ever would. Her feet felt heavy, but she forced herself to step forward. The record keeper entered their names into the system. A soft chime confirmed the bond. A gentle light passed over them. The ceremony was complete. Tom held out his hand. Nolly looked at it for a moment, then placed her own in his. Her fingers were thin and cool. His were warm and strong. They stood like that for a moment, and then he led her away from the hall. No one clapped, no one cheered. But Nolly didn't mind. As they walked together through the quiet corridor, she glanced up at him. Why did you choose me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Tom looked ahead as they walked. Because you were alone, he said simply. And you looked like you didn't expect anyone to choose you? Nolly was quiet for a while. Then she asked again. But why choose someone like me? Tom glanced at her with a small smile. Sometimes the quiet ones see more. Sometimes small. Things are stronger than they seem. I don't need someone loud. I need someone real. They reached the dock where Tom's ship was waiting. It was not large or shiny. It looked old, but it was clean and well kept. This is home, Tom said. Nolly followed him up the ramp inside. The ship felt warm and peaceful. Tools were neatly placed. Wires were tucked in. There were no guards, no servants, no loud machines. Just a quiet space full of work and thought. He showed her the room where she could rest. It was small, but there was a soft bed and clean clothes. I don't expect anything from you, Tom said. You can stay as long as you want. Help if you like, or not. I won't force you. Nolly looked around. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. She sat on the edge of the bed. Thank you, she said. Tom gave a small nod and walked away to let her rest. Nolly sat in the quiet room for a long time. Her hands rested on her knees. Her mind was full of thoughts. She did not understand this. Human yet, but for the first time in her life, someone had looked at her and seen something others did not, and somehow, that made her feel a little less small. The next morning, the soft hum of the ship's engines woke Nolly. She opened her eyes slowly and looked around the small room. The light was pale blue from the windows. That showed stars drifting quietly outside. She sat up and stretched her arms. For the first time in many cycles, she felt calm. She stepped out of her room and into the narrow corridor. The ship was small, but it felt alive. Pipes ran along the walls, and panels blinked with soft lights. The floor was clean, but there were marks and scratches showing years of use in the main room. Tom was bent over a strange machine. His hands moved carefully, adjusting wires and pressing buttons. He did not look up when Nolly entered. Good morning, she said softly. Tom looked up and smiled a little. Good morning, Nolly. Did you sleep well? She nodded. Yes, your ship is quiet. It feels safe. Tom chuckled. That is good. Safety is important. Nolly walked closer to the machine. It was a small engine, covered in parts and wires. She did not know what it was for. What are you working on? Tom straightened and wiped his hands on a cloth. This is an old engine. It helps power the ship. It is old but strong. I'm trying to make it better. Nolly watched him. He worked slowly, but his movements were sure. There was care in the way he touched the tools. I can help, she said suddenly. I have seen engines like this. Tom raised his eyebrows. You have? Nolly nodded. In the learning halls, I study machines. My people do not build ships, but I like to learn. Tom smiled. Then you are welcome to help for the next hours. Nolly stayed by his side. She passed tools, held parts steady, and learned the names of the machines. Tom explained the small things she did not understand. Sometimes, Nolly made mistakes. A wire was put in the wrong place. A button pressed too early. Tom only laughed and helped her try again. He never made her feel small or clumsy. By the end of the day, the engine started with a smooth sound. Nolly's eyes shone with pride. Tom clapped his hands. Good job, he said. Nolly smiled. For once, she did not feel invisible. Days passed. Like this, Nolly helped Tom clean the ship, fix small machines, and organize supplies. She listened to his stories about Earth, a blue and green planet with wide oceans, tall forests, and cities full of light. Tom told her about humans who built machines, solved problems, and helped each other even when times were hard. Nolly shared stories too, about her people's gentle traditions and quiet songs. Tom listened without interrupting. One evening, as the violet star floated near a quiet moon, Nolly sat beside the window. She watched small lights blink on the surface far below. Tom joined her and sat down quietly. Do you miss your home? He asked. Nolly nodded. Sometimes it is hard to leave everything behind. Tom looked at her with understanding. I know. I left Earth for many reasons. Sometimes I miss it too. But this ship, this journey, it is a new home for us. Nolly thought about the choosing ceremony. How cold and bright it was. How the other girls smiled and moved with confidence. How she felt small and invisible. Why did no one want me? She asked softly. Tom sighed. I don't know. Maybe they only saw what was easy to see. Size, strength, titles. But those things do not always show who a person really is. Nolly looked at him. What do you see? Tom smiled. I see someone who is brave enough to come with me on this ship. Someone who is kind, patient, and ready to learn. Someone who does not give up. Nolly's heart felt warm. She wanted to believe him. That night, as she lay in her small room, she thought about the future. What would happen on this ship? Would she find a place where she belonged? The next morning, the ship's alarm rang loudly. Red lights flashed. Tom jumped up. "We have company," he said quickly. Nolly followed him to the bridge. Outside the window, small ships moved fast. They were pirates. Dangerous people who attacked travelers to steal goods. Tom moved the controls, trying to avoid them, but the Violet Star was old and slow. The pirates closed in. "We cannot outrun them," Tom said. "We have to prepare." Nolly's hands shook. She did not know how to fight or defend the ship. Tom handed her a small tool. "Help me check the systems. We will try to slow them down, together." They moved through the ship, checking engines, locking doors, and sending messages for help. The pirates boarded the ship. Nolly hid behind a large crate. Her heart beat fast. She felt small and scared. Then, she remembered what Tom said. "You are stronger than you think." Nolly looked around. She knew this ship better than anyone. She knew every corner, every vent, every secret space. Quietly, she moved through the shadows. She used the tools she found to block doors and slow the pirates, one by one. The attackers were trapped or confused. The ship became a maze for them. Tom fought too, but Nolly was the one who saved them after the pirates were captured. Tom smiled and said, "You were amazing." Nolly smiled back. For the first time, she felt like she was more than small or quiet. She was a part of something bigger. The day after the pirate attack, the Violet Star floated silently through a stretch of quiet space. Nolly sat near the control panel, her small hands tracing the edges of the buttons and switches. The ship's lights hummed softly, and the stars outside twinkled like distant candles. It was calm, but Nolly's mind was busy. Tom was busy too, repairing the damage caused by the fight. He moved steadily through the ship, checking engines, fixing broken panels, and testing systems. Nolly watched him work. He never rushed. Every move was careful and exact. She liked that about him. "Can I help?" Nolly asked, standing beside him. Tom looked up and smiled. "Of course, you already helped a lot yesterday." Nolly felt a warm glow in her chest. She wanted to do more. She didn't want to just follow or watch. She wanted to be useful. Tom handed her a small toolkit. "Here. Can you check the wiring in the engine room? There might be some loose connections." Nolly nodded quickly and went down the narrow stairs to the engine room. It was noisy here. The old engine pulsed with power, and wires ran like veins through the walls. She could smell oil and metal. The air was warm. She knelt down and looked carefully at the wires. Her small hands were steady as she touched the connections. She found a loose wire and tightened it, then another. The more she worked, the more she understood. After a while, she heard footsteps behind her. Tom was watching. "You are very good at this," he said. Nolly smiled but looked away. She was not used to praise. "I learned some things before. I like to fix and build." Tom nodded. "I can't tell. You have a good mind for machines." For the first time, Nolly felt proud of herself. Not because she was chosen or saved from danger, but because she could do something well. Later, in the ship's small kitchen, Tom cooked a simple meal. The smell of warm bread and roasted vegetables filled the air. Nolly sat at the table, watching him move around. He didn't speak much, but his calm presence made her feel safe. "Why do you keep a ship like this?" she asked quietly. Tom smiled. "Because it is history. It has been places. It carries memories. And it reminds me that even small things can be strong." Nolly thought about the choosing ceremony again. How everyone had looked at her like she was too small or weak. But here, in this old ship, she was important. After dinner, they sat together by the window. Stars stretched out endlessly. Nolly's thoughts drifted. "I want to learn more," she said softly. "Not just machines, everything." Tom nodded. "We will learn together. There's much to see and understand." Days passed. Nolly and Tom worked side by side. She learned to read star maps, to understand ship controls, to repair broken tools. Sometimes she made mistakes, but Tom was patient. One afternoon, as Nolly was repairing a small drone, the ship's communication system beeped, Incoming message, Tom said, moving to the console. The screen showed a face, a tall alien with sharp eyes and a serious expression. He introduced himself as a member of the Galactic Council. "We have heard of your recent actions." The alien said, "Your small ship and your strange crew. We are curious." Tom nodded politely. "We are just travelers, exploring and learning." The alien raised an eyebrow. "Your cooperation is expected if you wish to continue without trouble." After the call ended, Tom turned to Nolly. "Looks like the council is watching us." Nolly felt a chill. The council was powerful and often difficult to deal with. "But why watch us?" she asked. "Because you are different," Tom said. "Because you faced danger and won. Because you showed strength in ways they do not always understand." Nolly thought about her small hands fixing wires, about the quiet courage she felt inside. Maybe she was different. Maybe that was enough. That night, she dreamed of stars and distant worlds. She dreamed of places where size and strength were not the only things that mattered. The next day, they arrived at a small trading station. Tom docked the ship carefully. Nolly stepped onto the platform and looked around. Aliens of many kinds moved in the crowd. Some looked at her with surprise. Others whispered quietly. She felt the old weight of being unseen. Tom held her hand gently. "Remember, you are chosen." Nolly nodded. Together, they walked into the busy market. For the first time, she did not shrink away. She was ready to face whatever came next. Nolly stood at the edge of the trading station's market square. Her eyes followed the bright banners that waved from tall poles, each showing symbols from different planets. Lights flashed above shops and stalls. Aliens of many shapes and sizes moved through the wide space. Some had long arms, others had many eyes or tails. But all moved with purpose. She kept close to Tom as they walked. He carried a small bag of tools and spare parts. They had come to trade for supplies, food, power cells, and a few machine parts. "Stay close," Tom said kindly. "Crowds can get busy." Nolly nodded and held onto the strap of her satchel. Her eyes stayed alert. She didn't like the way some aliens stared at her. Others passed by without noticing her at all. At a corner stall, Tom spoke to a merchant about engine parts. While he checked the tools, Nolly noticed a group of tall figures standing in the shadows near the loading bay. Their bodies were covered in dark coats. Their eyes followed each movement in the square, but their hands stayed hidden. Something felt wrong. Nolly touched Tom's sleeve. "We should go," she whispered. "I don't like the way they're watching." Tom turned his head slightly and followed her gaze. He looked calm, but his voice was steady. "All right, let's finish up and head back to the ship." They walked quickly through the crowd, moving past music stalls and food stands. Nolly's small steps matched Tom's. She glanced behind once and saw the group moving too. But now they were splitting up, some going left, others right. When they reached the ship dock, Tom entered the code. The door opened with a soft hiss. Nolly stepped inside first. The lights came on slowly. Before the door could close, a loud sound echoed across the dock. Then another. Tom spun around. "They're coming. Go to the bridge. Lock it." Nolly ran down the narrow hallway, her feet light. She pressed the lock button as soon as she reached the bridge. She heard shouts from outside. She peeked at the screen. 4 pirates entered the ship. They wore dark metal boots and held electric rods. Their faces were hard and cold. Tom stood in the center of the hallway, between the pirates and Nolly. "Leave," he said. "You won't find anything here." One of the pirates laughed. "We're not looking for cargo. We came for fun. And you've got something new with you. That little thing. What is she?" Tom didn't answer. He reached for a pipe from the wall. It wasn't a weapon, but it was strong enough. The pirates moved closer. Nolly watched, frozen. Her heart beat fast. Tom was outnumbered. She couldn't fight like him. She didn't have strength or size. But she had the ship. She took a deep breath and opened the panel under the bridge desk. Inside were emergency wires and ship controls. She had worked on this system before. She knew how the air vents connected. She knew how to lock doors. Nolly pressed a few keys. She closed the hallway doors behind the pirates. Then she dimmed the lights. The ship fell into shadows. Tom swung the pipe and hit the first pirate's arm. The rod fell to the floor, but another pirate shoved him into the wall. Nolly moved fast. She sent a jolt through the floor grid. One of the pirates yelled and fell. The others looked around, confused. "What's happening?" One shouted. "The lights." Above blinked. Doors opened and closed. A vent cover dropped from the ceiling with a loud bang. Nolly crawled through a side hatch and reached the storage room. She pulled wires from the back of a wall panel and shut off power to half the ship. Now only emergency lights glowed red dots. She had learned the ship's map well. She moved quickly, staying quiet. One by one, she sealed small rooms and sent gas into vents to distract the pirates. Inside the main hallway, Tom was back on his feet. The pirates were no longer in control. Their leader shouted, but nothing worked. "Who's doing this?" he cried. Tom grinned. "Someone you forgot to notice." Nolly entered the control room and activated the lockdown. Doors closed with a loud thud. The pirates were trapped inside the cargo bay. She turned on the speakers. Her voice was soft but clear. "You should not have come here." The pirates looked around in confusion. "Who's this?" "Show yourself," the leader shouted. "You did not see me before," Nolly said through the speakers. "But I saw you." One pirate tried to break the door. Another hit the wall. But nothing worked. Tom opened the emergency panel and pulled out a signal device. He sent a message to the station guards within minutes. Flashing lights appeared outside. The dock doors opened and armed guards entered the ship. The pirates were taken away without a fight. Tom leaned against the wall and looked around. "Nolly," he called gently. She stepped out of the shadows. Her hands were still shaking. "You did that," he said. Nolly looked down. "I didn't know what else to do." Tom walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You were smart, calm, brave. You saved us both." Nolly felt a strange warmth. Inside, it wasn't fear anymore. It was strength. Back on the bridge, she sat in the main chair while Tom reset the systems. "You know," he said, "you're more than a helper now. You're part of this crew. You're the reason this ship still flies." Nolly smiled. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel small. She felt seen. She felt chosen, not by luck, but by worth. And this time, she believed it. The violet star floated quietly in deep space inside. Tom worked at the main console while Nolly adjusted a small panel near the engine room. The ship had been peaceful for the past 2 days, since the pirate attack, but the memories still lived. In both their minds, Tom checked the sensors. No signs of movement nearby. "We're safe for now." Nolly climbed out from under the panel, her hands covered in dust. "The coolant system is fixed. I also rerouted some energy from the backup power core." Tom looked over, impressed. "You did that on your own?" Nolly nodded. "You showed me how to do it last week." "I remembered." Tom smiled. "You remember everything. I think your mind works faster than this ship." Nolly sat down and looked out the window. Stars moved slowly in the dark sky, blinking softly like fireflies. "I used to think I wasn't good at anything," she said. "Now I feel different." "You are different," Tom said, "but not in the way they meant. You're clever, calm, and stronger than most people I know." Nolly didn't answer. She didn't know what to say. She had never been praised like this before. Just then, an alarm rang softly, not loud like a battle alert, but steady, a warning tone. Tom turned to the screen. "Something's coming." Nolly stood beside him. "What is it?" Tom zoomed in. A small shuttle was drifting toward them. It wasn't sending any signal, which meant it might be in trouble. Or it could be a trap. Strange. Tom said, "It looks empty, but the engine's still warm." Nolly looked closely. "Should we help?" Tom nodded. "We'll bring it into the dock, but carefully." The shuttle was pulled inside. Tom and Nolly walked down the hallway with caution. Tom carried a scanner, and Nolly held a small control pad. The shuttle door opened with a quiet hiss. Inside was dark. There were no passengers, just empty seats and scattered tools. But on the control panel was a blinking light. A signal was being sent from inside the shuttle. Tom stepped forward. It's a beacon. Someone wanted us to find this. As he reached for the switch, sudden spark jumped out. A shockwave pushed him back. Lights on the violet star flickered. Nolly ran to him. Are you hurt? Tom sat up slowly. I'm fine. But the signal was a trick. The ship's lights dimmed again. Systems began to shut down one by one. Life support switched to backup. The engine slowed. Nolly's eyes widened. Something's wrong. Tom looked at the screen. It's not just a trick. It's a virus, a digital attack. Someone put it into our ship. Nolly knelt down and opened the control panel. Wires blinked in the wrong colors. Code scrolled across the screen. Like rushing water. Tom shook his head. I can't stop it. It's moving too fast. But Nolly kept watching. Her eyes scanned the lines of code. Her fingers moved over the buttons quickly. I know this pattern, she whispered. Tom looked over. You do. Nolly nodded. It's a looping code trap. It repeats commands to take over the ship's brain. But I saw something like this once before in the learning halls. She typed fast. Her hands didn't stop, even as lights flickered again. The ship's voice began to stutter. Nolly kept going. She opened hidden files. She closed command paths. Then she did something bold. She rewrote a small part of the ship's system. A risky move. But it worked. The lights returned to normal. The hum of the engine grew steady again. The ship's voice returned, calm and clear. Tom blinked. You stopped it? Nolly nodded, breathing hard. It was trying to make the ship destroy itself. But I changed its orders. I told it to delete itself. Tom stood slowly. You used the virus against itself. Nolly looked down. I didn't know if it would work. It worked perfectly. Tom said, You saved the ship again. They removed the shuttle and sent it drifting into space. Then Tom placed a heavy lock on the ship's system, with Nolly as co-controller. You know this ship as well as I do now, he said. Later that night, Nolly sat in the engine room alone. Her small hands turned a screw, but her mind was far away. She thought about how the pirates had not feared her, how the virus was meant to destroy them without a fight, but both times she had stopped it. Not with strength, not with size. With knowledge, with silence, with skill. Tom walked in and sat beside her. You know, he said, you may be small, you may be quiet, but in the last week, you have defeated trained pirates and shut down a code weapon. Nolly smiled a little. Tom continued, most people would panic. Most would freeze. But not you. I just didn't want to lose the ship, she said. You didn't just save the ship, he replied. You saved me. They sat quietly for a moment. Then Nolly looked up. Why do they never see it? See what? That someone small can still be strong. Tom thought for a moment. Because they're looking in the wrong place. Nolly nodded. Then maybe we need to show them where to look. Tom smiled. I think we just did. From that day, Nolly took on more tasks. She wasn't just a helper now. She ran systems. She repaired engines. She even trained Tom on the faster ways to manage code. She became known across the trade routes. Some called her the silent pilot. Others called her the heart of the violet star. But Tom always called her by her name. Because she was not just a part of the ship. She was the reason it kept flying. The stars outside the violet star glowed faint and distant. Inside the ship, everything was calm. The air was steady, the lights soft, and the engines hummed quietly. Nolly sat near the central screen, reading a star map. She traced her fingers over the glowing lines, learning new routes and old paths. Tom entered the room holding a small silver tablet. His face looked serious. We received a message, he said, from the Galactic Council. Nolly looked up. The council? Tom nodded. They want to meet us, in person. Nolly stood slowly. Why? Tom placed the tablet on the table. They say it's a request, but their words sound more like an order. Nolly had heard of the council. Everyone had. It was made of powerful beings from the most advanced species in the galaxy. They ruled over trade routes, peace deals, and space laws. Even strong captains and large ships followed their voice. Tom looked at her. We don't have to go. But if we ignore them, They might see it as disrespect. Nolly thought for a moment. Maybe it's time they saw us. Tom smiled. All right, let's prepare. 2 days later, the Violet Star landed on a floating station that belonged to the council. It was wide and silver, with towers shaped like spirals and lights shining in slow patterns. Tall guards in smooth armor stood near the entrance. Tom and Nolly stepped out together. Nolly wore a simple gray uniform with no rank, no medals, no shine. Tom wore the same. They did not come to impress. They came to speak. Inside the main hall, everything was large. The ceiling stretched high like a mountain peak. The walls were made of crystal. In the center sat the council, 12 leaders, each from a different species. They watched with calm faces as Tom and Nolly entered. The first voice came from a long-faced alien with skin like stone. Human Tom, you were called because of your recent actions in unmarked space. Another council member added, we have heard strange things. A single human ship, repelling pirates and destroying a data virus, and not with weapons, but with a girl. They all looked at Nolly now. She stood straight, but her hands were tight at her sides. A third voice, light and sharp, said, is this the girl you chose? The one no other species accepted. Tom spoke clearly. Yes, her name is Nolly. Few council members exchanged looks. One of them gave a quiet laugh. And this Nolly, the sharp-voiced member said, how is it that she, so small and silent, defeated pirates trained for war? Another chuckled. Perhaps they ran because she stared at them. The hall filled with light laughter. Nolly looked down for a second, but Tom's voice rose above them. She defeated them by knowing the ship better than anyone. She moved where they couldn't follow. She used systems they didn't understand. She didn't need to fight with weapons. She used her mind. The laughter faded. Tom continued. And when a virus entered our ship, it was Nolly who broke the code. I didn't even see the pattern. But she did. She turned the attack back on itself. One of the older council members raised an eyebrow. You say this with pride, yes? Tom said, even though she has no title, no special training, and no high rank. Tom nodded. Because she has something more rare than all of those. She learns. She adapts. She never gives up. You call her small, but you do not see her strength. The room went quiet. Nal I finally lifted her eyes. You did not choose me, she said softly. At the choosing ceremony, I was passed over. No one looked at me twice. But I was still there. I watched. I listened. And I remembered everything. A council member frowned. Why speak now? Nolly stepped forward. Her voice was quiet, but clear. Because you ask why I matter. And I think you should know. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small data crystal. This holds the full recording of the virus attack. You will see what it did, and how I broke it. A guard took the crystal and placed it into the council system. A large screen lit up. Code filled the space, fast and sharp, red alerts. Blinked, then came Nolly's countercode, her quiet defense. The council watched in silence. When the video ended, the room remained still for a long moment. One of the stone-faced members finally said, this kind of control and speed is rare. Another added, and done without panic. That is not something we often see in youth. The leader, a tall alien with eyes like water, leaned forward. What is it that you want, Nolly? Fame? A place in the council? A medal? Nolly shook her head. I want none of those. I want you to understand. Value does not always wear a uniform. Strength does not always walk with loud steps. And sometimes, the smallest one in the room sees what no one else does. The leader leaned back. Noted, Tom and Nolly turned to leave. But before they reached the door, the leader spoke again. Nolly of the Solari, the council sees you now. Nolly paused. She nodded once, then walked beside Tom back to their ship. As the Violet Star lifted off, Nolly sat by the window, watching the station fade into the stars. They laughed, she said. Tom smiled. Yes, but only at first, she nodded. Then they listened. That's what matters, Tom replied. They saw you? The real you? Nolly looked at the stars ahead. The ship moved smoothly through space. But something inside her had changed. She was not just following anymore. She was leading too. She had spoken in the Hall of Power. She had shown them that strength could be quiet, that skill could come without titles. And they had listened. The stars were quiet as the violet star glided through open space. Its lights were soft and steady. Inside, the hum of the engine was peaceful. Nolly sat at her usual spot near the window, her chin resting on her hand. She watched the stars pass, slowly, one by one. It had been 2 weeks since she and Tom returned from the Galactic Council station. The memory of that day was still fresh in her mind. Their quiet steps into the council hall, the laughter from the leaders, the way they had doubted her, and how, by the end, they had listened. Nali closed her eyes for a moment. She had never wanted attention or praise, but something had changed inside her. For the first time, she didn't feel like the forgotten girl in the corner. She didn't feel invisible. Tom walked in, carrying a tray with 2 cups of warm fruit. "Tea, you didn't eat much today," he said gently. "I wasn't hungry," Nali replied. He placed the tray beside her and sat down. "You've been thinking again." She gave a small smile. "A little. Want to tell me about it?" Nali looked out the window. "I was just wondering, why did you really choose me? Back at the ceremony, you didn't know me," Tom thought. "For a moment, I saw something in you. I didn't know what it was at the time. You looked like someone who had more to give, someone who wasn't just waiting, but hoping. You looked real." Nali turned toward him. "But I was quiet. I had no voice. I had no skills to show. Everyone else seemed brighter, louder." Tom nodded. "That's why no one saw you. But sometimes the best light is the softest one. It takes time to notice. But once it's there, you never forget it." Nali held her cup gently. The warmth of the tea felt nice in her hands. A soft beeping came from the control panel. Tom stood and checked the screen. A message. "It's from the Union station near the outer edge." Nali joined him. The message was short. "Request. Support from human vessel Violet Star. A young alien girl has asked to speak with crew member Nali." Tom looked at her. "Seems someone's looking for you." Nali was surprised. "Who would ask for me?" Tom shrugged. "Let's find out." They adjusted the ship's course and arrived at the station a day later. It was a small outpost with only a few landing bays. The lights were not bright, and the walls were plain. Still, the place felt safe. A station officer met them at the gate. "Thank you for coming," he said. "We don't usually send such messages." But the girl was very clear. She would only speak to Nali. Nali followed the officer down a long hallway. At the end, inside a quiet room, sat a young alien girl with light green skin and large blue eyes. She looked nervous and held her hands tightly in her lap. When she saw Nali, she stood up quickly. "You're Nali?" Nali nodded. "Yes. Who are you?" "My name is Rena," the girl said softly. "I'm from a moon near the trade routes. I heard your name at the council hearing. The recordings were shared in some places. They talked about how you stopped pirates and fixed your ship." Nali didn't know what to say. Rena continued. "I was also not chosen at my own ceremony. No one picked me. They said I was too small, too quiet. But when I heard about you, I wanted to meet you, to ask how you did it." Nali stepped closer. "I didn't do it all at once. I just did what I could each day. I learned, I worked, and I stayed true to myself." Rena looked up. "But how did you become brave?" Nali sat beside her. "I wasn't brave at the start. I was scared many times, but I had someone who believed in me. And slowly, I began to believe in myself." Rena's eyes filled with hope. "Can I be like you someday?" "You don't have to be like me," Nali said gently. "You only have to be yourself." "That is enough," Rena smiled. "Will I ever find a place to belong?" Nali nodded. "Yes, and when you do, hold on to it. Not because someone gave it to you, but because you earned it later." As Nali returned to the Violet Star, Tom walked beside her. "Who was she?" he asked. "A girl like me, left behind, looking for hope." Tom gave her a proud look. "And now you're the one giving it." That evening, Nali sat at her station and opened the communication log. Messages had started arriving. small ones at first, then more. Young beings across the galaxy had heard her name. Some wanted to learn from her. Some just wanted to talk. She answered each one with care. In the next few weeks, the Violet Star became more than just a ship. It became a symbol, not of power, not of battle, but of quiet strength, of the voice that had once gone unheard, now being shared. One day, as they prepared to leave a starfield, Tom turned to Nali. "There's a message from the council," he said. "They're inviting you back." "Back?" Nali asked. "Yes. They want you to speak at a gathering for young minds. Not as a guest, as an example." Nali took a breath. "I'll go. But not to impress them. I'll go for the others like me. The ones still waiting to be seen." Tom smiled. "I wouldn't expect anything less." As the ship rose once more into the starry sky, Nali looked forward. She was no longer the girl who had been left behind. She had been chosen once by someone kind. Now, she chose herself, and the galaxy was finally listening.